Yeah, we are connecting. So let me. Yeah, Gigo just said, I need to make chemistry. Yeah, hi Gigo.
Hello, good evening, guys.
Yeah, good evening.
Sorry, I might have clicked there are so many email reminders and emails and messages they send you. I don't know which one to click.
Yeah. So we will fit.
Hey, Gigo, how are you?
Very good, Atul. How are you?
Good, good. Good evening.
So, how is Singapore, Atul?
We have participants, right? So we already have participants on the call, correct, Dorothy?
All right, Atul, what is your question?
No, do we already have the participants on the call? We do.
Yes, I start the webinar.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I see 41 people already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can wait. I think we wait more.
Hi, Kamlesh.
Yeah, hi Hiran.
How are you?
So we are just started now. The people are joining it.
We haven't even started and there are questions already. I wonder what happens when you start.
Yeah, and some had basic questions. Some want some kind of participation certificate because they are
We are
doing.
with an intelligent crowd.
Some is comparing with the Libra of Facebook. So
Awesome. I'm happy to be first here so that I can leave the question to the last speaker.
so Atul, do we need to wait for a couple of minutes or we can start? What you say?
I think we got a fair degree of participation here, right? We got over 53 attendees. So I think and it's 2 minutes past the time. So I think we should start.
Okay, yeah. So then let me start the first introduction about the event. So hello everyone. Hope you are doing great in this COVID time. I'm Kamlesh Nagware, VP Blockchain at Disney Future Tech, and also lead the Hyperledger India chapter. And I'm the host for today's webinar. And this is the second webinar in the series, which focus on the blockchain hype to production networks. So in the last webinar on the 18th September, IBM and Hyperledger director, Brand presented the global perspective of the global production networks. And to extending to this session, today we have covering the couple of blockchain production networks in the Asia Pacific and the India. So today we are having 5 presentations, including supply chain, trade finance, education, and kind of social sector as well. So before we start, I just want to give some background how we gonna cover it. So there will be 15 minutes for each to talk about the business use case, solution, and then maybe little demo, and then maybe kind of showcasing how blockchain is impacting the particular business domain. So that is all about. So let's first start with Atul Patel. So Atul Patel is a co-founder dltledgers, and he also vice chair Hyperledger Trade Finance SIG, and he's going to present dltledgers Trade Finance digitization platform and how trade digitization become important during COVID and after COVID supply chains. So over to you, Atul.
Thank you, Kamlesh. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Just confirm if you can see my screen. Can you?
Yeah, we can see.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure to be here with the Hyperledger Pune meetup. So my name is Atul Patel. I'm based in Singapore. I am an avid follower of how the private permission blockchain can be applied to solve the real business problem, to really create business use cases that can really popularize this technology to achieve the outcome. If you can mute, if you can, Kamlesh, if you can mute rest of the attendees while I'll be speaking, that would be great. I also, as part of my day job, I work with dltledgers, which is the independent blockchain platform for trade and supply chain digitization. In the night job, I work with Hyperledger Trade Finance community and try to get more and more developer, architect, business focused folks to come and together and contribute into the special interest group. So you're welcome to join the special interest group. Kamlesh is also part of them, and maybe a few of the attendees here already are contributing to the special interest group. So, but today's topic is to really talk about what the business use cases that we are working on and what do we do at dltledger. I'm kind of going to give you a preview of that for next 10 to 15 minutes, and then we could maybe take a few questions if there is a time. So dltledgers is a Singapore headquarter independent blockchain company, 3 years into the operation, and supported by Singapore government and the nodal agencies around Singapore. As you probably know, Singapore is a regional trade capital of the world. 22% of the world physical trade moves through Singapore, and therefore there is a huge amount of financial institutions as well as the trading houses who make Singapore a home, apart from the shipping and insurance agencies. So it's a perfect place looking for a perfect solution in this space. So what we do at dltledger, we kind of focus to 2 key personas. So we look at the trading companies of all sizes, small, medium, large, as well as the large enterprises who don't necessarily call them trading companies, but they are involved in doing cross-border movement of goods. So some are involving, moving merchandising goods. Some are basically manufacturing some things in a country like India and then exporting it out, or someone who is manufacturing stuff in Bangladesh and exporting to the rest of Southeast Asia, or vice versa. So we do have a use case and the value prop for the large companies, large enterprises in the trade, which is really to digitize the cross-border transactions in a very private permission fashion to really achieve the value for each party in the transaction and reduce the cycle time, increase the efficiency, reduce the cycle time, and really impact on the bottom line. We have a division which focuses on bank and how to actually blockchain a bank from a trade finance angle, as Kamlesh pointed out, because there's a lot of other use cases that one could talk about on the crypto side of the house, which we don't do, but we're really looking at creating the productivity gain of using blockchain for trade finance operation process digitization within the bank. Suffice to say that we are one of the top, if not the top, in terms of the adoption for the real usage within the enterprise. We have over 400 customers who are actually doing their cross-border trade within the platform, 45 over banks, and over $3 billion worth of trade has transacted digitally using this platform. The sectors we support includes agri-commodities, metals, minerals, oil and energy, merchandising trade. The flows that we support includes South Asia, including India, to Southeast Asia, parts of ASEAN, to Australia, New Zealand, to Middle East and Africa. And that's really the flow that, the Asia to Africa, Middle East, as well as Australia and Japan. That's a flow that we have a lot of traction on, and we continue to build more and more business partners to support this. So we have over 4,800 business partners who are actually in the network transacting every single day. These are some of the kind of public stories out there for you to look at, what different companies have seen the benefits, whether you talk about Cargill, who basically saved over 4 days of time by moving a $12 million transaction from North America to Indonesia using the blockchain-based processes from dltledger, or whether you're looking at ADCB Bank in Middle East looking to digitize their trade finance, or looking at AgroCorp, a large trader in Singapore, looking at saving 15 to 20% of finance cost. So there's significant benefits out there, and significant stories exist already, so that this is something that needs to be adopted by people who are in this business, and there is a very easy way to people to get started. We actually offer kind of a live trade that you could put through to the system at no cost for you to get started. So I think it kind of has taken off where we get more and more adoption coming in every day from within our platform, from SaaS platform, from our website. So what is the problem that we are trying to solve? I think it's probably most of the people in this call already understand the paper-based trade processes that exist and fundamental inefficiencies that exist between the flow of documents, flow of goods, flow of contracts, and flow of money. All of these four flows kind of run in parallel and have got very inefficient process. So if you can optimize this flow in a very private, secure way and really saves those inefficiencies, I think there is a benefit for every party. So that's really what the solution is on the right side, where every party in the chain benefits. And there is a famous misnomer about, I need to have all these parties in order for me to do digital trade. That's not true. There's a concept called minimum viable parties, which typically involves buyer and supplier and the bank. And then you can get started with that. And then rest of the parties can come along and improve the efficiency of already an efficient process, but they are not a must. So I think you can get started just with minimum viable parties of buyer, seller, and a bank. So what is the benefits that one would get by digitizing cross-border trade using dltledgers platform? You obviously saves time, money, and really the effort that's involved in digitization. I have not met any company where the trade finance or trade operation people don't complain about, they have to work till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock every single day. They've been like so much stuck on the details of matching different documents. They are keeping tracks on various Excel spreadsheets about, certain reminders that's coming up. And there are so many cases where there is an overage on the trade finance expenses, i.e., you miss certain deadline and you end up paying damages because you didn't pay the freight on time, things like that, right? So there is quite a lot of leakage that happens. Not only that, there's a pressure on the trade finance and operation people to really just a time pressure to get all the work done, but there is also a leaking the money, if you will, that one has to pay more money if you kind of miss the deadline for paying for your freight on time, and then demurrage will start kicking. So efficiency, cost saving are the two key benefits you're looking at it. One of the only few platforms who already provide a ready integration to the most best-in-class ERP system that exists today. So we do provide that as part of a plug and play within the platform. We provide a traceability and provide trade clock, so you can see different types of movements of trade that's happening, and really kind of providing visibility for different participants in the chain. And then there is a performance, right? So you cut down the cycle time, like I said, in the Cargill trade from 5 days to really less than a few hours. The benefits, right? So a lot of people spend time telling me, okay, yes, I'm not a geeky, I don't understand blockchain. Yeah, it's good stuff, but what's the benefit, right? So customers increase productivity by 20%, reduce finance costs by 20%. And they can do, in addition, a softer benefit of tracking the provenance and process. So you could do the numbers and come out with, okay, if I increase the productivity by 20%, if I have 10 people, all of a sudden I have 2 extra FTEs worth of work that I could do. Therefore, I can increase my top line. If I reduce my finance cost by 20%, that means with the same set of parameters, now I can actually impact my bottom line. I save, my cost is reduced, so therefore it really makes a huge impact to my bottom line. If you're looking on the bank side of the house, banks are looking at reducing the TAT, the turnaround time, because there is a famous saying that, if you send a document to the bank, it takes them at least 20 to 40 different views before they actually kind of approve or reject that document. And that process is fairly manual. They have heap of people, they have some manual checks, 3 or 4 levels of approvals. All of this is ripe for disruption because you don't really need those very clumsy looking processes. So you could reduce the turnaround time, reduce the risk, reduce the fraud, because once you have digital submission of documents, it's very hard to fraud those documents on blockchain systems. So it kind of helps you reduce the fraud and error and cut the 5% of operational costs. So that's a significant benefit for the banks. Auditors and regulators feel comfortable that this is kind of audited. This is not, you can't muck around with what you got here. The audit, every single step is audit allowed, so you get an immutable record of transactions. Distribution and logistic partners are really kind of the middle of the chain, if you will, right? So they get real efficiency improvement. They are not sending emails or sending WhatsApp messages to their partners. So, hey, my ship has left the port, or what is an ETA, or can you send me a draft BL instruction? Can you give me that instructions? Can you give me vessel nomination form? All of this could be digitized. Right, and at the end of the day, the buyer and the sellers, they gain real efficiency in terms of working together with, ethical sourcing and really improving the supply chain there. So that's really the benefit part of it. So just quickly going into, I know my time is getting pretty quickly over. I got maybe last 5 minutes. So let me just walk through the different use cases that we support, and then I can take the questions. So obviously I talked about first one is digitize the cross-border trade and the workflows. And this is really kind of linking all these 4 processes, the document, the flow of money processes, we connect that all together, linking it back to your core systems and working together with the banks to, as well as with the other parties like shipping, to really realize this trade flow digitally. We invite each and every type of trader, the small trader, the medium trader, the large trader, or the banks to come together and do experience this in a live trade, which is available on our platform. So anybody can sign up and start doing this live trade. Only requirement we have is that you must have a trade, which means you are either shipping something or you're importing something, right? So you must be in process of doing certain things, which requires cross-border movements of goods. So that's the first use case. And then you go down into, from a bank point of view, there's kind of quite a bit of interest in terms of what do you do on the documented trade digitization, and letter of credit being one such instrument. So you look at how do you digitize that whole process with the UCP 600, with EUCP, as well as looking at a newer way of coming out with the confirmation and discounting models. So that's something we do within the platform as well. And this typically is useful for a lot of banks where they got a significant documentary trade or an LC business. Then you're looking at from a large enterprise point of view, let's say large manufacturer or a large consumer product company. They want to optimize their account receivable process with multiple different banks. So rather than kind of just becoming part of, okay, I will just rely on 3 banks to give my this, you could actually create your own platform, and then you can invite the banks to come to participate and do the bidding. And this really flipping the coin, if you will, where you could really own this platform and you invite the banks to come in to participate and fund your account receivables. So that's the use case number 3. Use case number 4 is suppliers. How can suppliers get faster AP financing process, which is exactly the reverse of the use case number 3. Use case number 3 was on the receivable side. This is on the supplier side on the financing, AP financing. Then distributed digitization is a use case that we have done with another customer, a large customer in Middle East, where we basically look at how distributor will work together with the principal in terms of not just putting the order and collecting the order, collecting the commission. That process is already there in the dealer management system. But how do I link that with the bank so that I can actually look the banking transactions that happens between the distributor and the principal within the platform, right? So it's called distributed network digitization, and that really helps distributor to save certain number of days in their process in their dealing with their manufacturer. Then this is the use case around visibility and traceability within the supply chain. So in certain high value industries such as metals or mining, you would see that traceability or provenance or where the goods come from has a huge value because the end customer is willing to pay extra if it comes from a particular reliable source. So you could create the entire provenance tracking. We did it for a large mining company out of Australia to really provide this traceability and visibility in the supply chain, what they call a chain of custody. Now, this gets super exciting in some of the retail scenarios as well, but please beware that in the retail scenario, there is, at the end of the day, you need someone to pay for this. So if the end customer is not willing to appreciate and not willing to pay additional for this, I don't think there is a business case for that. So that's why you need to look at the high value metals or high value items where the provenance is useful, and we have deployed that for one of the large mining customers. And then you could run your own supply chain financing business. So with the tech access with dltledger platform, you could actually provide your own supplier financing, because we have quite a number of alternative finance platforms who provide the alternative finance. They are connected to dltledger's platform, and that way you as an end customer actually could run your own supply chain financing business. Within the bank, last use case, I think, and then I'll take question, is really looking at how one could look at interbank process digitization. One such example is risk sell down process. So within the financial institution business, FI business, a large bank, there's some banks buy the risk, some banks sell the risk. So how do you actually digitize that process across multiple different banks across the region and use the blockchain process to digitize this? And that's something that we have done it also for one of the large Australian banks. So I think that kind of takes my time. I will kind of stop my presentation here, and you can see all of these 8 use cases that we have. We already have customers who are actually using this use case. So this is not something which is a thought or a white paper. It's a real platform. And I would urge you, I'll put a link into the chat for those who want to try. There will be a link for you to register and try the platform. Thank you so much. Back to you, Kamlesh.
Yeah, thank you, Atul. So yes, really nice presentation. So we have a couple of questions. So the first, like, how many network members are involved in the dltledger network, and where are they hosted? A cloud provider they want to ask.
Yeah. So like I said, we have over 400 customers, 45 banks, and 4,800 business partners. So that's kind of roughly the number for the network, and it keeps growing every month. And it's offered as a private permissioned a network as a SaaS platform. And it actually, the node is, they are globally kind of hosted, if you will, under, right now we support 3 platform providers. We support Microsoft Azure, we support Google Cloud Platform, as well as we support SAP Cloud Platform. So depending on the choice, you could choose any, and you could choose in any country that you would like your node to be available.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So next question regarding the data privacy, maybe regarding GDPR or something.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of topic on GDPR as well as PDPA here in Singapore. So I think the key thing to remember is that what is being stored in blockchain, it's not in our case, we don't really store any personally identifiable information into the private blockchain because we are not in the consumer use case. So dltledger is already a GDPR compliant, because we don't store anything which is personally identifiable information within the blockchain. And secondly, is part of, there are certain rules in terms of how you keep the information in GDPR available for X number of years. So we have an elegant architecture of keeping it in off-chain databases, which supports the GDPR requirements of retaining certain information.
Yeah, thank you, Atul, for joining. So next, I would like to invite Darshana Jain, CEO of Future Tech, with Naresh Jain, CEO and co-founder, and along with their customer Kushal, is a social skill organization, to present the Credential platform snapshot. Over to you, Darshana and team. Darshana, you are on mute. Yeah.
My bad. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kamlesh. Pleasure to be here today. Just to walk you through what we are going to talk about. You've already introduced me. I am the CEO of Sanachit. My name is Darshana Jain. We are a blockchain enterprise solutions company.
Darshana, you need to share your PPT right now. There's some Word file which is there right now.
Sorry, my bad. Am I sharing my PPT now?
No.
Not yet.
Yes.
Visible now? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we actually took the liberty to invite our customer to talk about the use case today with us. And we aim to talk about the use case for a credential verification platform today. And the credential verification platform is used by universities, colleges, schools to issue degree certificates and verify them. So that is a fairly common use case for blockchain today. The reason to invite Kushal as a use case, because it's a very unique scenario, and we'll talk about it as we go forward a little bit. I want to take a couple of minutes and actually introduce what Kushal does, because that's very important for a use case. Kushal is an organization that's dedicated to skilling workers in the construction real estate industry. And they are actually in this domain, it's a big deal because it's a very hard thing to do because nobody wants to take time off of work to get trained. And skilling in Hindi means Kushal, and that's what this means. And the whole purpose is to skill the migrant labor that is involved in the construction industry. This is an initiative that is taken by the Developers Association of Pune called Credential. And Kushal is partnered with the National Skills Development Corporation, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, and CSDC. These are our government bodies which are involved in skilling India. The need to understand what Kushal does is vital for the purposes of the business case because it offers first of its kind on-the-job training on the construction sites through its mobile vans, and Kushal has made a mark worldwide. They are actually, they went to the World Skills Competition and have won 3 consecutive years for excellence in bricklaying, and that says a lot. Close to 75,000 workers have been skilled by Kushal, and these 75,000 credentials are available on our platform on blockchain to be verified. There are some core skills that Kushal trains in: bar bending, plumbing, shuttering, tiling, painting, masonry. Again, I'm saying this is important for us to understand what Kushal does, for you to understand the use case as to why it was important for us to tell you what Kushal does. A little bit about the company, what Snapper Future Tech does. Snapper Future Tech is an enterprise solutions company. We do products and platforms using blockchain. We also have an edtech vertical called Indian Blockchain Institute. We work in various domains: supply chain, healthcare, e-governance, BFSI. SnapCert, which is what we're showcasing today, is part of our e-governance suite. The Indian Blockchain Institute was actually a result of our own need for the company to find blockchain talent. And it kind of was born there, and now it is a tech brand. It's a tech company, which is actually catering towards the world requirement of global talent for blockchain as we all get ready. I invite Kapil Trimal to talk about, so Kapil is part of the Kushal team. He's the joint secretary on the steering committee, and they actually identified the business case and brought it to us that there was something very unique about it which we needed to address. Kapil? Kapil, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. So for the first time in India, the construction worker was issued a certificate. Now, an instrument that validated the skill level and ensured fair wages. However, construction workers move from site to site, from region to region, and their existence is almost nomadic in nature. So lo and behold, that certificate always gets misplaced. Second is, aside, when the worker presents this certificate to the contractor or the developer, they're immediately very doubtful and worry about the authenticity and the source of the certificate, that they've produced. Managing it effectively and retrieving it whenever it's required for decision for making it available to stakeholders like contractors and developers. From a management perspective, we need data available based on demographics, trade, and various other data points, which can help us become more resourceful and more efficient. And finally, what we need is transparency, the need for a genuine certificate and a secure medium, one that cannot be altered, misplaced, or misused.
So when Kapil and JP sir came to us with this problem, the very unique issue here was that the migrant labor does not have access to smartphones or to any online digital medium for him to produce any certificate, right? Even if they were to store it, let's say on WhatsApp or any other such medium. And yet they had to prove their credentials, because if they don't get the raise in wages, which is probably about 30 to 50% hike in their daily wages. And so it was important for us to provide a solution which did not require them to have any digital platform for their verification. What we had to go and do was use the Aadhaar ID, which is the equivalent of a social security number issued in the US. And the Aadhaar ID, again, it's a personal identifier. So because of GDPR, obviously we couldn't have that kind of information on the platform. So we had to take the last 4 digits, make sure that it's unique, use the course, the initial skilling courses that I showed you, along with their name, to create a unique hash for this. So if the laborer went to any construction site and just gave his last 4 digits and the name, we could pull up the certification. So it really made it easy for them to access. The ROI for each of the stakeholders is immense in this platform. Real-time verification without loss of time, Obviously, it's trusted. There is a huge saving in OPEX for the verifier also, as well as for the institution that is implementing this. And deference to fake certificates for both. For the laborers, it was again online and permanent records, anytime, anywhere. And no risk of losing the paper certificates because they're migrant, they cannot carry it, they lose it. We're going to show you a quick demo of the platform on how this is done, the actual platform. I'm just going to take a second here. Naresh, you want to help me out here? Okay, one second. Yeah, I got it. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. How about now?
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay. We're going to run through a quick demo that Naresh has recorded.
Let us take a look at how Snapshot works and how our customer Kushal is using it. The platform supports 3 stakeholders: the Academy Institute, who issues the certificate or degree, in this case, Kushal; the verifier, in this case, construction contractor. It could also be a corporate or an individual verifier. And the third stakeholder is a recipient of the credential, in this case, the migrant labor. The credential recipient for Kushal is a migrant labor who is uneducated. They may not be able to preserve the physical copy of training certification issued. Kushal adopted Snapshot platform to ensure ease for contractors to verify skilling credentials based on his name and the last 4 digits of his Aadhaar ID. Aadhaar ID is the Indian version of the social security number issued in US. Verifier will register on the Snapshot portal and signs in. Contractor can then verify credential on the certificate by using certificate ID or using metadata. Verifier selects the issuer program name, the type of certificate from the predefined list, and enter ID and name given by the candidate. If the incorrect data is entered, an error message is displayed. If the credential is verified, then it displays the certificate data and PDF file of the original certificate can be viewed. In case of tampering, or if the credential is removed or displaced from the primary source, then Snapshot detects the same and displays the error message. Snapshot provides end-to-end certificate generation and verification process for all kinds of credentials, including micro-credentials. The Snapshot platform adheres to the GDPR standards and maintains data protection and privacy for our customers. Thank you.
So that's the use case in short with Kushal. There are multiple universities also on the platform which are able to verify the credentials, issue credentials, attest, issue duplicates, and go through the entire credential lifecycle. We also are able to issue micro-credentials, which is badges, essentially. Naresh, JP sir?
Yeah. So thank you, Darshana. In fact, as Kushal has always been pioneers in doing something unique. And when Darshana came up with this proposal, we were absolutely, surprised. And if this could be done, I could see the potential where 5 crore construction workers genuinely needed this kind of a service so that they are able to really get the wage they could get after being skilled. Being on the board of the Construction Sector Skills Council, I realized the impact this could have on what would be achieved post the skilling is done. So it's a brilliant idea, and we are glad that Snapshot could come out with a solution that was really very easy to access and very doable. And I think it's great future. So congratulations to Snapshot, and I think it's going to be a big thing for the industry, particularly where skilled, unskilled laborers who do not have such access are really going to benefit not only in terms of wage enhancements, but also in terms of financial inclusions that shall follow with such data security and data availability. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time taken for the business case here. We are open to any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Darshana, and thank you, Kushal and Naresh. So there are one question regarding the platform offered as a SaaS. So how the personal identity information data handled, means kind of GDPR compliance?
Yeah, okay, so let me take up that question. There are two parts here. First of all, whatever verification we do verification at the primary source. We do not store any certificate on our platform. We do not store any personal information on our platform. So we are connected with the customer's database, and we act like a bridge between verifier and the certificate issuer. So between them, the certificate is there, platform is there, and whenever verification is to be done, it directly goes to the customer system database and verifies it. And what we do on blockchain is mainly we store hashes. So we are not storing any kind of personal information on our platform.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And next question regarding the who is the kind of hosting a node, DLT node in the solution?
Okay, so here we have created a multi-hosting environment, and each university, basically they have optional, like in case of Kushal has not adopted that because it's not that and that large organization, but in future that's what we are discussing right now. But generally each university has the option to host a node, and we are open for any kind of cloud server. So we have 4 different kind of nodes which are separately managed on different clouds. Apart from that, one node which is given one optional to each university, and it's a multi-hosting environment.
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation. So yeah,
thank you
great.
Thank you so much for having us, Kamlesh.
Yeah, so next I would like to invite Gigo Joseph. He's the VP at Chainyard, and he's going to talk about their supplier onboarding platform, Trust Your Supplier, and how Trust Your Supplier is making supplier onboarding faster and efficient in the supply chain processes. Yeah, over to you, Gigo.
Thank you, Kamlesh. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Very pleased to be here. At least for some of you, can you guys hear me well, right, Kamlesh?
Yeah.
Okay. For some of you, you probably have seen this presentation multiple times. But my apologies. So what because I've been presenting it for probably the last 1 year now. So instead of focusing too much on the solution, I just wanted to give some of the learnings we had from building the Trust Your Supplier product. You can see my presentation as well, right? You're not seeing, right, Kamlesh?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. So I will give you a little bit focus on the governance building and the governance building aspects of when you create a product like Trust Your Supplier. Okay, so let me make this full screen. So before I get into Trust Your Supplier solution, this is important to understand Chainyard. There's only 2 slides about who is Chainyard. We are one of the leading blockchain service provider. We have been certified by Hyperledger. So we started, we closely work with Hyperledger Fabric. We are a key contributor to Hyperledger Fabric in the IBM labs. So we created more than, let's say, 30 solutions on blockchain. Majority of them are in Hyperledger Fabric. We work on Ethereum as well. I've taken at least 4 solutions into production. So the one additional vertical which you find, which typically others don't operate, is consortium building as a consulting services. So you would see consulting, engineering, and operations is been done by most of the service providers. So Chainyard, with its deep expertise in creating multiple solutions and taking them into blockchain solution, taking them into production, created a consortium building a consulting practice as well. So this Trust Your Supplier, we received the Best Supply Chain Product Award last year from the Blockchain Research Institute Blockchain Revolution Global. So I'll show you the slide of adoption later. And the previous year, one of the work we did for a Miracle Relief collaboration for the coordinating the relief effort of a hurricane using blockchain that received these TV awards in 2019. Okay, so what is, without taking much time, I want to get into what is blockchain. Let me start a timer so that I don't take too much time. So if you look at, I don't know how many of you worked on the procurement area. So look at the supplier management challenges, right? You start with qualification. Some of the issues mentioned by the previous speakers, Darshana, she was telling me about finding the right talent in the market. This guy is a good person, right? It's very similar. If you are a buyer organization, how do you find a good supplier? Like you put an ad, you search around, you find this, and you find a set of people. The second thing happens is like validating what he submitted is correct. The way today procurement organization works is like they ask the supplier to submit a set of credentials. As an example, they ask financial statement, they ask insurance certificate, the license certificate, all those things, right? So you get all those certificate, but you don't have a proper mechanism to validate that. So you use like companies like Dun & Bradstreet, Thomson Reuters, or a chartered accountants to validate, or you go online and validate license by yourself, right? You do all those validation. And once they are validated, these people are onboarded into in the ERP of this company, right? There are many companies provide such ERP solution for supplier management. And then the challenge is not at over. Then there's a life cycle of the managing the supplier comes. An example, 6 months down the line, his insurance expires, his product license expires, or maybe some of the board member resigned, or maybe, his ethical sourcing practices change. Maybe his green certification has expired. You need to reapply and readmit all those things. So this, if you look at, this is a slow and inefficient process today. Today it takes 30 days to 3 months, minimum 30 days to 3 months to onboard a new supplier. And the validate and maintaining that supplier, there's a large number of team has been used by most of the companies. And this dynamic regulatory requirements with the money laundering and with people relationship, with the insurance changes, the policies changes, you need to keep intact, updating all the supplier information into your database, right? And there is a technology gap today. Like each company is maintaining all the supplier information in their own database, right? So this is a pictorial explanation of the same process which I mentioned, right? So if you look at here, a supplier, a different time zone, different time, he is submitting same or different data to multiple buyers. So it's very similar to KYC, or very similar to KYC. Or, if you can think it, these are the banks. Buyers are the banks. The person is submitting different information to different people, right? Same thing like this. So for a supplier, he is submitting different data at different buyers at different time. Their data is not all synced. Everybody is doing a manual effort to update that. So after creating many solutions for a client, we thought, why don't Chainyard create one solution ourselves, right? So we thought creating a trusted digital identity of a supplier and share it across multiple buyers would be a very nice solution. It will definitely reduce the cost because same data is shared across multiple buyers. Redundancy and extra effort record is not needed. It mitigates risk because you can actually have some, everybody sees single source of truth. And there is a trust element and, shorten the life cycle of onboarding. So now the next thing happened is, when we know this is a good opportunity, but we are a tech company and we didn't have the muscle power to go around and, get everybody onboarded. So we straight went to IBM procurement, the CPO, Chief Procurement Officer of IBM, and we proposed this proposal with them, and IBM procurement division, the procurement office, they liked it. So Chainyard and IBM partnered together, and IBM will provided all the procurement expertise and go-to-market strategies, and Chainyard as a technology company who actually own and invested and created the solution. So that's the first lesson which I have for anybody who's trying to create such network is, build your team early, right? I mean, don't if you're a tech company, don't try to create the solution. Create the go-to-market strategy. Create a team early and build an industry leader of the domain. I mean, if you are building something for airline industry, get one of the large airlines with you before you get started, as an example. So when we onboarded IBM, the second thing we did was see what we are doing is make sense, right? So we took the supplier data hierarchy and we did an analysis of that. And what we found was very surprising, because we found 50% of the data is common across every supplier. All the data submitted by suppliers to buyers, 50% is common, regardless of which buyer it is. 20 to 25% of the supplier data is another 20% is same in the same industry. What this means is, like, if IBM and Cisco, they both are in the technology industry. So if two suppliers submits data to IBM and Cisco, 70 to 75% of the data remains same. The questions remain same. If they are the same geography, another 10% are same. And if there's only 5% or less than 5% buyer specific data. So this gives us the confidence that, if you structure the data, properly in a blockchain with the procurement questionnaires, we can easily, selectively, block wise share, question wise, we can share across multiple buyers. So that means, then why don't we go for a centralized database instead of a blockchain? So you guys know that answer very well from hearing this. It is a single version of the truth. Immutability aspect comes in, but which we cannot guarantee on a centralized database, right? So that's the second, next set of lessons I have for you is, like, first you need to ensure the blockchain is a solution. I mean, we need it, a lot of solution people propose out there, you can do with a centralized database as well. So ensure saying that there is a value proposition for this blockchain. So how does it work? This is actually in simple terms. So you have a supplier and you have a buyer, right? So everybody joined the blockchain network. So the first time it is same. The way it works is exactly the same the way it worked before. Let me go back, sorry. The first time it is same the way it was working before. A supplier submit all the data requested by the buyer. So the way it works is, buyer send a set of questionnaires to supplier. Supplier answers all this with all this data and is put it on the blockchain. And a third party verifier like Dun and Bradstreet or somebody comes and verify all this data on the blockchain. So so it takes same 30 or 3 months, whatever it used to take before. But the scenario changes when the second buyer comes in the network. When the second buyer comes in and asks the supplier, send the same set of questions. Now the supplier has pre-verified, validated data. And all he has to do is, like, all the common questions, he just share the question answers which are already verified by a verifier. And only thing he has to do is, do only the remaining questions which need answers. So that way, like, let's say if the 80% of the questions are same, which most cases, like financial statement will be, say, everybody will ask financial statement, everybody will ask the license, everybody will ask the insurances, product quality test results. Now, all those get immediately, within seconds, you can share to the new buyer. So the supplier needs to re-verify only the data which is been additionally asked by the buyer. So it gives you the majority. We found that in 90% of the time, the benefits, real-time updates happens. Let me tell you an example of how this works. Let's say one supplier is connected to 25 buyers. Let's say today the supplier is a license expert. In today's scenario, he has to renew the license, take a copy of that, submits to all 25 buyers. And all 25 buyers send it to verifiers to verify the data. So now with the blockchain, our solution, the supplier renews it. into the blockchain. Verifier comes and verify that all 25 buyers get notified his data has been changed or license has been renewed. So every user is found 90% of the real-time update happens because it's a major savings for them. As another thing is like, let's say something expired, it automatically updates to all the buyers, say his license or somebody expired and he hasn't renewed it. 70 to 90% of reduction in cycle time on board side. It depends on how much pre-verified data is already available. So we found that effectively 50% reduction in cost. And another thing we did is we created third-party developers, like, the companies can come in. I'll show you who are all came later. Companies can come in. We have extended APIs to them. They can use that API and they can create a service on top of this. So a couple of other learnings. So when we did this, the MVP, we went with only 4 or 5 buyers. We did not have more than 5 buyers, I think, in the network. So rest of the people joined later. So we found that we have a very easy way to, converge into our thought process along with IBM. So when you have a set of people in the consortium, early in the consortium is less, rather than, get 40, 50 people joined your consortium at the beginning. So the business value, I kind of talked about these 3 aspects: real-time updates, reduce time, and reduce the cost. Same thing for the suppliers. Suppliers, elimination of repetition and redundancy is what we found. Everybody enjoying it because he needs to submit only once. And if you look at the trust your supplier ecosystem, right? There's a value proposition for everybody in the ecosystem: for the buyers, for the suppliers, for the third party, for the audit, the owner and operator, which is Chainyard. There is a set trusted anchors, and the verifiers. The verifiers get paid every time they verify your data. So now the business model. So what we did is we created a large governance board. Okay, so the business model to us today is only the supplier pay the fee. Supplier pay annual fee to join the network, and buyers do not pay any fee today. And we onboard only the buyers into the network. It is the buyers go and onboard the suppliers. As an example, we onboarded IBM. IBM goes and onboard there are around 18,000 plus suppliers. So the model has to be so when you create a blockchain, you need to really think through what model is over. We could have onboarded all the suppliers and then go behind the buyers, say we have all the suppliers, then get them. But it doesn't work that way, because in a procurement phase, it's always buyers onboard suppliers. So we went through the road and we made it free for the buyers. And we also created a large governance board with JetBlue, Airbnb, UPS, Lenovo, Cisco, all these buyers. They joined the network in the financial. If you look at American Express, JP Morgan. And we also have a network of validators, starting from Dun & Bradstreet, EcoVadis, Rapid Rating, and large other. There are a lot of other companies came in as validators. I mean, they are being integrated. And we also created an API, a skeleton API, which the validators and third parties can download, integrate into their existing ERP system, bring it back and install it on our blockchain network, so they can work seamlessly with their existing ERP network. And business network and founding buyers, some of the buyers who couldn't join in the governance board. So the difference between this business network and the data providers, these are the people who validate the data. These are the people who use the block trusted data and create solutions on top of that. I can show you one example which happened with the IBM Sterling Commerce, which we did it for the COVID later. So I think I have 13 minutes. I'll skip through some of those things. So it's critical if you create something is, you need to have a good governance structure created there. The governance body in our case, they steer the solution and roadmap, make sure saying the performance on the operator, make sure the rules of the data, and many things, there's large responsibilities in set for the governance team. And we have different type of buyers in the governance member, buyers in the founding member, buyers in the standard buyer. Depends on how much they pay and what they contributed to the network. It all comes under the business plan created. So these are some of the the learnings we had. Create a business model that is acceptable for everybody. So let me skip these two. So the one major challenge we found that, don't underestimate the legal challenge of getting all the contracts in place. This is actually, we found it's critical because we're creating such a large consortium, and it took us at least 1 year for us to get our initial set of contracts with some of the buyers. So that would be a challenge for you. So this one I wanted to show you. So when this COVID happened, right, in the US in March, there was a lot of shortage of PPE. So people were finding it very difficult to buy these equipments. People were finding it, the quality was always an issue of PPE equipment. So we thought we had the supplier data on the blockchain, the trusted supplier data on the blockchain. And IBM had this, IBM Sterling product had this inventory and availability. So within 6 weeks, we combined these two and created a new solution called Rapid Supplier Connect and launched it in US. More than 500 suppliers and buyers joined this network and to buy this PPE through this particular network. So this shows that, once you have a network which is ready, especially such kind of a COVID scenario comes, you can quickly deploy new solutions on top of that. So I want to stop at this point. So we have 15 minutes I passed. So I think
yeah, thank you.
And take some questions here.
Yeah, so there is a question like platform is based on Fabric. So which version?
I think 2.1 is the latest, right?
Yeah, no. So currently the Trust Your Supplier platform, on which version?
I believe it is 2. I'm not certain about that. I can actually, you can send a mail. I can get back to you on that.
Okay, and then what data is stored on the DLT? I think it's understand supplier data.
Yeah, supplier information is also the all the personal information of supplier data we structured into 2-3 categories, so that the basic data of the supplier can be seen by all buyers, and if they like it, they can invite the supplier, and the supplier shares the additional data and can be seen by these buyers. So similarly, supplier specific data is not seen by other buyers if it is not given the permission.
Yeah, thank you, Gigo. I think it's done. There is no question pending. So next we have Parth Patel. He's CEO and co-founder, Infinichains, and he's going to present their credible platform, which is end-to-end traceability for the organic commodities, and how the credible platform is helping brands to get visibility into their supply chains. So over to you, Parth.
Thank you, Kamlesh. And thanks Hyperledger chapter for giving me this opportunity. Hello, everybody. I am Parth Patel. I am co-founder and CEO of Infinichains. And today I'll be presenting Credible, which is a end-to-end traceability platform for sustainable and organic commodities. So what is the problem that we are trying to solve? So the supply chain data today is siloed and fragmented. And that creates a lot of problems. The key being, it is very difficult to have end-to-end visibility in the supply chain. So I will explain that with an example. So here is a supply chain for cotton, where there are farmers who grow this cotton, then there are ginning mills, there are various factories that transform the material into intermediate products, and finally garment is created and is sold to distributors, retailers, and consumers. So in this supply chain, the data collection on the farm side is predominantly paper-based. And again, I'm specifically referring to the situation in India, but also in other countries, it is still very paper-based process. And then the data that is collected on the factory side, typically people are using ERP solutions like SAP, but every manufacturer or every stage in the supply chain has their own SAP installation that doesn't talk to other installations of other manufacturers. And then finally, the retailers, brands, distributors, they have their own systems through which they manage their products inventories. So we typically end up with these 3 broadly siloed systems that don't talk to each other, and it becomes very hard for brands to get an end-to-end visibility of what's happening. So the first problem is of inefficiency in the collection and management of compliance data. So we typically focus on sustainable and green supply chains. So in these supply chains, there is a requirement for meticulous management of data to prove whatever claim you are making can be verified and substantiated. So that process becomes inefficient because of the existing practices. Then secondly, there is a huge risk to brands because of this lack of end-to-end transparency. And it can happen that the brand is making a certain claim in the market about their product, like they might be saying this is organic, or they might be saying this is conscious, or this is even coming from a certain region, like this is Egyptian cotton, and they might find that it is not true, and that can be a huge blow to the reputation. And finally, the use case of food recall is very complex today and is inefficient and quite expensive because of lack of meticulous traceability information. So how are we solving this? We have built a solution called Credible that bridges these fragmented data silos in the supply chain. So the data systems that are on the farm side, on the manufacturing side, and the brand side, we are able to stitch them seamlessly by sitting on top of these existing systems and allowing all the stakeholders to submit their data, and then we stitch it and provide an end-to-end visibility into the entire value chain. So this is an example of again a cotton supply chain. So let's say this is an organic cotton value chain, and we have farmers who are growing the cotton following a certain standard for how the cotton is supposed to be grown if it is to be deemed as organic. So they are following those practices, and previously they were collecting all this information on paper and then submitting it to certifying bodies to get the certificates. But now we have built a mobile application where the data can be collected on the farm in an authenticated manner, in a verified manner, and can be stored on our blockchain platform, and later can be submitted to certifying bodies in a completely automatic manner to get the certificates. So this is saving a huge amount of time and improving the efficiency of this whole process. The next, on the factory side, there are various manufacturers who do a small part of the supply chain, and they are typically using SAP-based systems. So all their data previously sat in silos and was not connected. So we allow all these suppliers to now upload their data into our blockchain platform, all the batch data, and then we are able to connect all these different batches across various manufacturers. And finally, we allow the retailers, brands, and end retail consumers to pull this information and look at the traceability themselves. They can verify that the product they're buying complies with the claims that it is making. So this platform is built on Hyperledger Fabric, and Fabric has been quite instrumental in helping us build the solution in a rapid manner and offer all the comprehensive features that we do. So we are able to offer end-to-end traceability, analytics reporting, and recall of products. So on the farm side, to improve the efficiency of data collection, we have also employed drones, where the drones capture data from the farms in terms of imagery, and then we pass that data through our machine learning pipeline that can do automatic intelligence gathering on this data. So we are able to automatically detect the farm boundaries. We are able to detect what kind of crops are growing on the farm. This is to help us verify that the farmers are following the organic practices that they are supposed to. And in addition to that, there is another interesting use case that we are working with a bank, where they are adopting an alternate risk model for the farmers, where the data that we collect for these farmers and the data that is collected about what crops they're growing, what they're selling, can all be combined to create an alternate risk model that can be used to give loans to these farmers. So a lot of the farmers in India don't have the typical credit history that people have. So this alternate model really is helping the farmers get access to loans. So this is a typical view that a brand has of their supply chain. So what a brand can do is, starting at a purchase order or a sales order, they can click into that and inspect the batches of material at each stage of the production process. So here they can look at the t-shirt that is part of the sales order, then they can click into the dye lots that created it, and so on, all the way till the farmers from whom the cotton was procured. We provide comprehensive analytics dashboards for various stakeholders in the supply chain. We have created a mobile application that the end retail consumers can use to look at the traceability information in a simplified manner that they can appreciate. So finally, there is this use case of recall, where we provide both backward and forward traceability to enable recall. So let's say there was a batch of product that is already on the store shelves, and the retailer finds out that there is something wrong with that batch. So using our platform, it is possible to trace, starting from that batch of product all the way to the farmers who supplied the cotton for this batch. Then those specific farmers can be investigated and basically seen what is, if there is anything wrong with their produce. And let's say we identify a specific farmer whose produce has the said problem, then we can do a forward traceability and find in which retail batches did the cotton from this farmer go into. So that allows the retailer to pull out only the batches that have the problem. So this becomes a very efficient and timely way to do recall, instead of basically recalling all the batches in a given time frame, which is very expensive. So what is the traction we have so far? So we are today managing data for 400,000 certified organic farmers in India on our platform. So this is just to put in perspective, the total number of certified organic farmers in India is 1.2 million. So out of that, we are managing data for 400,000. So that is 1/3 of all certified organic farmers in India. We are tracking 350,000 tons of organic produce per year on the platform. We have 152 agri products that are being tracked, 1 million SKUs, 16 B2B customers. These are some of the customers that we are working with. Wellspun India, that's a big textile manufacturer. Pratibha Syntex is another big textile manufacturer. Patagonia is a conscious brand in the US. So that's all I had. I wanted to show a quick demo. Looks like I have some time. So I'll just hop into the demo and show you what our system looks like. So this is the dashboard we provide to a manufacturer, where they can see all the different departments within their supply chain. So here you see a manufacturer that has cotton warehouse, spinning, and then all the way till the finished cut and sew stage. So they can go into any of these departments, look at the inventory, look at the batches that are present there. They can go to the upstream batches that produce that particular batch. They can look at the supporting documents associated with the batches. And then we provide a visual traceability for the brands who want to inspect a given purchase order. So let's say this is Nike that is looking at the different purchase orders that it has procured, and they want to look at the traceability of one of the sales order. So they click on the sales order, they get a summarized information about the sales order on the left, and then they get to see a detailed drill down traceability view for their sales order. So they click into the sales order. In this case, it's a terry towel. So it shows what dial-out batch it was created from. Then the dial-out batch points to the individual rope batches that created it, and so on. You can basically click into each stage and basically look at the component batches that created it. There can be all kinds of information that can be associated at each level. So in this particular case, we have been able to trace from the sales order, which are finished products, which are towels, and we are able to trace it all the way back to the bale lots that were used to create them. And these bale lots, in turn, when you click on them, you get to see the individual bales within that bale lot, the associated information, and it's possible to inspect the associated certificates with these bales. So there can be origin certificates to substantiate the claims that this cotton is making. So somebody could say this is organic cotton or this is Egyptian cotton. So here typically would be the certificates to prove that. And then we also provide a simplified view for the end retail consumer to look at this traceability information. So we allow the manufacturer to print a QR code and stick it on the finished product. Scanning this QR code gives a simplified traceability view for the end consumer, where we show them the traceability of the product starting from the farm, the farmer, and all the way till the finished product. We also help the consumer know more about the product, the claims that the product is making. If it is saying organic, then why organic? Why is that important? What is the process? And we also encourage the retail consumers to donate back to the ecosystem. So they can make a small donation to projects that will benefit the farmers or the workers in the ecosystem. Just one last thing. So we have also created a quite comprehensive user management system and access control system. So we can create users for different stages of the supply chain and what access they have to the data, whether they can read, write, or only view the data. Again, all this access control identity is managed on Hyperledger Fabric using the facilities that it offers. So that's all I had. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, thank you, Parth. So there are a couple of questions. One is like how the data being verified and who are the verifying body, and what about the unique about a particular product, how is being traced? I think a couple of questions in one.
Okay, so we use digital signatures to basically sign the certificates that are issued by the certifying bodies. So we are onboarding certifying bodies, giving them their own private digital signatures with which they can sign the existing certificates that are accepted in the industry. And these certificates in turn can be digitally verified on our platform that
Okay.
they are indeed genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some technical question like what tech stack did you use and how are you managing the CAs for the users and organization in the network?
So this is Hyperledger Fabric. We have built it on that, and then some of the for analytics and stuff we are using some data warehouse solutions. We have AI and machine learning pipelines as well. For identity, we are using basically managing the certificates using the Fabric's certificate authority. We found that to be quite capable.
Yeah, and thank you. And please see the chat. Someone want to connect you regarding your product. So thank you.
Great, wonderful.
In the chat.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So the last presentation, I think this is very important for the current situation in the pandemic actually. So we have Sanachit Mehra, and he is a founder and CEO Cateina Technolgies, and he is going to present their stopcovid.io platform, which is some kind of philanthropy and CSR, fair trade and is backed by IBM and United Nations Laboratory, Innovation Lab, and some Madrid state government. So I think it's very interesting to see. Yeah, over to you, Sanachit.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Yeah.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Perfect. So I'm Sanachit. I'm the founder CEO of Cateina Technologies. We are a tech company. We've been building blockchain solutions for the last 3 odd years. Yeah, so this is basically us. And I actually am going to run 2 different versions of this. So we've already been talking about, how blockchains can bring in efficiency. So I have the small and efficient version of this presentation, and then I have the long drawn out tech version. So you can always, scan this QR code and find out more. And thank you very much for your time. That's basically it. So this was the short version. I'm just now going to move to the longer version of the tech. So we are, like I said, a tech company. We've been working for 3 years. We built solutions in supply chain finance, asset tracking, and digital identity as well. We were probably the first in India to come up with a supply chain financing solution, which we did with Yes Bank and Bajaj. We've since built solutions which are currently running live in production, and one of the implementations is in Bangladesh, and it's been run by one of the largest NBFCs there, and currently has around 5,000 vendors on the platform. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about something which is, again, which is what Kamlesh said. I'm talking about something which is more relevant today, and that's Stop COVID. Stop COVID is our initiative, and I really like this because it's truly distributed in the way that we've been able to sort of structure it as well. So you can see that the number of collaborating organizations that have come together to make this a reality. So it's a joint effort between Cateina in India and Congo, which is a Spain-based company. And so it's kind of a build in India, build for the world kind of a thing. And we've been able to build a generalized asset tracking platform, which can be extended to any use case. So using our open APIs, you can extend this asset tracking scenario to not just financial supply chains, but even physical ones. So this is essentially what it does. It's a complete network of different foundations, committees which are there to approve of every single project that comes in, NGOs which are there to execute projects on the ground, and validators and auditors who are going to validate and audit the authenticity of an activity record that just gets generated. Obviously, the use case came from the idea that founders or other funders in general are unable to check and verify whether their funds have actually been put into good use or not. So I think that's one very critical component of a blockchain solution, which is to provide a tamper-proof record of how you're going to track these. But I think in the COVID scenario, we came up with a very unique problem in some of the geographies that we've been working with. So one of our partners is Until, which is the United Nations Tech Innovation Lab. And they were running a pilot in Malaysia at the time. And they found that there were a lot of volunteers who were willing to work on the ground, but they didn't really have any kind of a regulatory backing or any kind of even a support system to be able to get funded and then help people. So in this case, we've been able to use the network that we have and then provide let's just say the fiscal or the regulatory backing of existing NGOs. So the way this would work is an NGO, a volunteer that wants to support a project on the ground would be able to tag onto an NGO, and the NGO would be the public face of that project. And you would still have people who would be able to execute this project on the ground. The good thing about this is everything is transparent and you still have the regulatory authority to do this. You have the licenses, everything in place, and you can still track the workflows as they go along. So the platform that we see is supposed to be this one giant stack of distributed tech, which is built on a network of trust. We are using a hybrid approach to this. So we use blockchain, rather two blockchains. We use a Hyperledger Fabric to sort of build the permission private part, and then we use Stellar for the public component. On top of the network, we enable developers to build their own solutions. We obviously have our own asset tracking solution, which is available to people through open APIs as well. But people are free to consume those APIs and build their own use cases as well. On top of that, we enable partners to also extend the scenarios to their own users through digital identities. We always ensure that data is encrypted at all times and it is safe and secure, even from our own prying eyes. So I'm just going to focus my energies for the rest of the duration of this presentation on the last two layers. And we are going to see how to actually run a network like this in production. So we've already heard from people how or why blockchains are good and how or why blockchain scenarios should be tested. I want to focus on the boring bits. Why should you get into a place where tech becomes boring? Because that means that you've now stabilized. So I'm going to focus on that. And the last two components will be my target. So essentially, this is the network that we are currently running. We provide a hybrid cloud approach to entities that want to run the platform. On our own, we have nodes which are running on Cateina Congo clouds. We have depositories which are able to run clouds, which are able to run nodes connected to the network as well. And we have, let's just say, a catch-all node to which auditors or validators can plug into. It is more a way for them to consume APIs than anything else. The application layer gets built on top of the network that I just mentioned. And it's a pretty standard 3-tier application. You have what is basically a Node.js application. We use MongoDB as a primary document storage. And then we have Hyperledger Fabric, which is more the database of audit. And we run this through standard API gateways through which customers are able to interact. Overall, this is what the cloud looks like for us. And it wasn't always like this. In the POC, we used to run this on a Docker swarm, and it was pretty easy. It would have just a single compose file and you could just set one up. In production, we had to really dig deep and look at scenarios in which availability would be critical or it would fail. Stuff would have to get back up and get back up quickly. And all the while ensuring that we would be on top of new developments that would keep coming in. So we ensured that our CI/CD pipelines are all automated. So we are not really touching the updates or the code too much. Every single update gets pushed automatically. So we have all the good tools of managing your SDLC in place. So what have we learned? Well, we've learned a couple of things. I specifically chose these two over a lot more things because I think these are common and critical to pretty much every single application which you are going to develop in future as well, and not just blockchains. So if there's any lesson that you want to take away from the 15 minutes that I have, there's two. The first, that less is more. The second is embrace failure. And even though they both sound counterintuitive, we'll go through them each one by one and see how they actually make a lot of sense. So when we started out, like I said, we start out with a POC. We started out with the POC, and it was a typical monolithic application. We had a single smart contract or chain code in Hyperledger Fabric parlance, and it used to be a pain to manage it, to update it, to ensure that the APIs were working. It was a pain. And so we decided that, the best thing to do is to separate the logic, separation of concerns. So if there is an identity scenario, just leave it to a separate chain code that would manage it on its own. It would have its own team, which would be responsible for the entire development lifecycle, and then things would still work. So this is where we are right now. So instead of a one giant single smart contract, we now have multiple smart contracts, each of them specialized for a single thing only. The good thing about this is that since it's now a very small piece of code that teams have to maintain, they can now start writing good unit tests. In fact, they can write end-to-end tests. They can write pretty much everything under the sun, and they can manage the smart contracts really, really well. So this is just us trying to bring in good microservice practices into the blockchain world. So over a period of running this, so we've actually been running Congo/Stop COVID for some time now. Stop COVID we've been running since the last 4 or 5 odd months, but Congo has been running since the last 3 odd years. And we've found that, it always makes sense when, the team knows exactly what it's going to do. We've also seen a lot of traffic of late, and we felt that, some of the concerns regarding the scalability of the underlying blockchain needed to be addressed, which is where we had to sacrifice a bit on the freshness of data and opt for uptime. So that's why you would see a lot of caches in our API. These caches, however, are limited to certain APIs only. Not every single API has a cache backing and fronting it. It's always there for APIs for which we feel that we are going to get a lot of traffic on. And these are APIs which can still suffer from some kind of, let's just say, lack of freshness of data and still work fine. So this is what we've built. And the lesson second is embracing your failure. I mentioned pretty early that, we decided pretty early on that, if things had to scale, then we had to brace for failure, and a monolithic application just wasn't really cut out for that. You can build a Docker Compose file, or you can build a single Node.js application, but it wouldn't really guarantee that it would work across 3 continents, 10 different countries, multiple use cases. And that's the scale at which we are working on right now. So we've decided to go with Kubernetes. Currently, like I showed in the diagram earlier, we are using a managed Kubernetes cloud because it's a small team that has to manage this. So it keeps the costs and the headache of running a Kubernetes server down to as much as it possibly can, but also gives us this nice little advantage of being able to run our cloud at decent scale. So this is what we currently have. It looks pretty ugly, but this is what it is. You have, so what you have right now is a network which supports completely decentralized transaction ordering. Every single of these giant boxes is a pod. It's a Kubernetes pod which contains all these, let's just say, unique deployment characteristics on its own. So every single time a new node has to come up, it has to have all of these things. So this is, in a way, an organization on its own. So every organization would have its own pod, and every pod would have its own segregated sandbox components. So this is what it would look like. Currently, we are running on IBM Cloud, actually a combination of IBM Cloud and AWS, but we do support multi-cloud strategies as well. One more lesson that I've learned from this, from embracing failure, which I really, really regret, is my failure to keep it simple. So we always talk about, keeping tech simple, but the problem with, focusing on scale and keeping things live and production ready is that you can sometimes fail to keep it simple, which is, again, something that the solution currently suffers from. So as you can see, and this is not an exhaustive list, by the way, we run a ton of components. We have, like I said, we have 2 blockchains, but it's actually 3. Some of the other tech is not really blockchain, but still distributed. So we use Kafka, which is a really, really good streaming platform if you want to use one. use Kubernetes, which gives you distributed compute on your own cloud. And these are hard technologies to manage on their own. And we decided to do all of those things at once. So if I had to do this differently the next time, I would actually probably wait before we scaled, or rather wait for achieving the kind of scale that we wanted to before hitting all these technologies. I mean, we obviously need all these things right now, but I think we moved pretty quickly on these, and as a result, some of our applications are probably not that well maintained, let's say, or maybe are not that updated because the team has to focus on a lot of underlying tech. But yeah, I think that's the lesson that we can always take back. So I think the one lesson that everybody can take away from this presentation is how to run any product, not just a blockchain product, any product in production. I think, and this is actually a Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting time, which actually is a way of wishing your enemies that they might have excitement. I wish none of you has excitement in running your production systems, because that essentially means that you're going to have sleepless nights. We have, over the last 3 odd years of running, not just Stop COVID, which is now a burgeoning platform with support from different governments and agencies, but also supply chain finance entities in different geographies. We've learned that the best way to build decent tech is to start small, and always remember that a decent monolith is always better than having a crappy microservice architecture always. So thankfully, we never experienced a crappy microservice architecture, but if you're going to build one, always make sure that that's actually good. So yeah, so this is finally the end of the longer version of the presentation. Happy to take any questions right now. Stop COVID is live. You can check it out, make donations.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Sanachit. Actually, it's very hard technical. Kubernetes, microservices, blockchain, cloud, Gmeter, every kind of trending technology put in the one presentation. So as a technical, I liked it. So there one technical question: where does org CA reside in the pod?
Can you say that again?
Yeah. So where does org CA reside in the pod, in the current Kubernetes pod?
Okay, so the
shown is in the
I already so it's a pod is so every single organization currently has its own pod. So a CA would basically be a container inside that pod. That's essentially it. But we do also support pluggable CAs. So you might have an implementation which would not have a CA inside a pod at all. I mean, you could just have a one somewhere else. That's entirely up to you. But when we run this on our own cloud, that's how we do it.
Okay, and there is one more. So what if we have hundreds of organizations?
Yeah, so I think there is a fallacy that we need to have hundreds of nodes when we have hundreds of organizations. I'm pretty sure that all of the people that have preceded me in this talk will never want hundreds of nodes on their network. One of the diagrams, or the network diagram that I showed earlier, actually had, I think, maybe 4 or 5 odd nodes, and that's basically it. I think the good thing about having a private permissioned network is that you get to permission who joins your network. So in our case, we've decided, we've actually set a very stringent criteria. So we would only ever onboard entities that actually have a public face, right? So a depository or a bank or a very, very large foundation like the United Nations, for instance. So these are already agencies or governments or institutions which have a public face, and they have the capability to scale their services as well. So if we were to have nodes, it would be limited, A. Secondly, it would be limited to entities that we would also be able to trust. Now, as to the second point, which is correlated to this, is, okay, what about the decentralization then? Then I think the point about Hyperledger Fabric is that every single actor on the network is in a way permission to do it. So even if you have a client device, you can store the certificates to connect to the network on your own client device, and you can run not a node, but a permissioned agent to talk to the network. So even a client device, a mobile device, or a web browser can be permissioned to run the network without running the full fat servers, which otherwise might be required.
Yeah. So I have one question. So every Kubernetes, you are using one Kubernetes cluster or the various Kubernetes cluster across the cloud, or maybe one particular cloud?
So we actually do support Kubernetes vanilla. Our own is OpenShift. So we run it on OpenShift, but yeah, we do support Kubernetes plain vanilla as well.
So OpenShift, but suppose if we using the one particular Kubernetes cluster, then it's kind of vendor locking or something like this, right? Suppose there should be, suppose running the Hyperledger Fabric in one particular Kubernetes cluster, that is not to provide some kind of scalability or kind of what we can say cross organization kind of thing.
I doubt that, because the way cross cloud communication happens is actually via your URLs, right? So we are going to permission let's say a server through a URL, and also ensure that there is always a two-way SSL going on. So let's say there's Cateina with its own enterprise running inside a pod. And for ingress, I'm using some kind of controller, but the entities that my organization is permissioned to talk to, well, they can run their cloud on anything. I mean, we are happy. So this is just, let's just say, this is the recommended way of doing it. But if there are entities who can only run their organizations using a simple Docker Compose file, I mean, we are all for that. It's just that when we run systems on production on our own, we prefer doing it the Kubernetes way. And even in Kubernetes, we prefer doing it in a particular way. But yeah, if let's say if one day an organization decides that, you know what, I don't want to run this on Cateina/Congo Cloud, and I want to have something of my own, you know what, why not? Why not? You can take the data with you, and some of the data is always available on a public chain. So that's available there as well. The good thing is you can always stand up a new server and make little. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, thank you, Sanachit. And I think really, I think we are managing the given time, all of us. And so recording will be available maybe 1 or 2 days. Then it will be posted on the Hyperledger YouTube channel, and then I will repost on my LinkedIn or Twitter post. And Hyperledger itself will share with all the people registered. So there are, I think, around 500 people registered for the session. So thank you. So thank you, Dorothy, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we can close the session and really nicely manage in the given time.
Thank you, Kamlesh.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you around.